Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello, and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zanker, and I'm your host. And on this show, we're always looking for unique individuals. And I have a unique individual today for many reasons to help you to gain another perspective, to look at things maybe in a different way than you've looked at them before so that you can work smarter, not harder. I know we keep hearing that. We keep saying that we want to be smarter, but there's a knowing and doing gap, isn't there? Yes, there is. We all know that. So without further ado, let me introduce Julian Reeve today. He is critically acclaimed for his work on the Broadway smash hit musical. Guess what it is? Hamilton. Julian is a keynote speaker and a burnout specialist committed to disrupting society's attitude towards work and achievement. He's graduated from Anglia Ruskin University in Cambridge, England, and before embarking on a highly successful career as a musician and entrepreneur, performing to millions around the world while founding 4 thriving businesses in the creative sector. So we have a real multifaceted personality here. And he's also, let me just finish his bio, and then I'm so excited to get you on, Julian. Julian's committed to his work, led to a stress-induced heart attack. That's not good. And when he was just 43 years old. So we're going to hear more about that. This event inspired extensive research into the current trends for achievement and exploration of alternatives. And with his findings providing the foundations for his TEDx talk, which was amazing, on perfectionism, and a children's book on the same subject. So without further ado, he's amazing and he's here with us today. Let's hear from Julian. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Penny. Thanks for having me.
Wow. So what a diverse background, right? Music, business building, all of that. I'm not even sure where to start. Let's start with the piece that's most personal, right? Which is in your bio, you said you had a work-induced heart attack. Tell us what happened and how you turned lemons into lemonade.
Yeah, sure. So I used to be the music director of Hamilton, and I was 3 months into that job when I had the heart attack. I'd just conducted a performance in San Francisco. I was walking home, and I just was overcome with pain and in my chest, referred pain down my left arm, sweating profusely, out of breath. And I didn't for 1 minute think that it actually was a heart attack. So I managed to make it home and I went to bed, went to sleep, woke up the following day, felt better, still not great. So I thought, you know what, I need some energy. So I went to the gym and I managed 1 kilometer on the treadmill. Normally I'm a 6-7K guy. And my body started reacting in exactly the same way. And I'm thinking, this is flu. This is what high achievers do, right? Whenever the stuff hits the fan, it's like, I'm fine, I can handle this.
Right.
I went to the theatre. This was a Saturday afternoon. I conducted another performance of Hamilton. And it was that same night when I experienced exactly the same and woke up the following morning feeling much worse. Only then did I decide to get medical help. And they did all the tests and they were able to pinpoint the heart attack actually on the Friday night. Yeah, and that was, as you can imagine, a very unique and difficult experience. The cardiologist basically sat me down and said, I do hope you understand how lucky you are. And I was like, well, yeah, of course, thinking.
Let me get back to my work. Yeah,
exactly. Fix me so I can get back to doing what I love to do, right? And he said, no, you're not hearing me. He said, right coronary artery was 95% blocked, which basically means that had you experienced any more stress between when you had the attack and when you actually checked in, you might not be here. And at that point, I was like, okay. Well, at that point, I took stock and was like, okay, fine. several months later or several weeks later, it really
before
hit
you
me.
go there, I want to back up a second. So
Absolutely.
and not go into the Hamilton fully because we're in this story, but was it the stress from that role and the overworking or the overthinking? Was it that created that, or was it like a period of years of working like that built to that? Just so that people can understand, is this something that happens from a short-term stressful situation? Because you said you just started there 3 months ago, or is this like a bigger problem?
Hamilton was the tipping point. And what started it was my kind of omnipresent ambition to thrive, to succeed. As my bio says, I've been heavily involved in entrepreneurship, driven by my work throughout my entire life. But ultimately, the root of the heart attack, if I was honest with myself, and I was forced to be honest with myself through work with a psychologist after the attack happened, the root of the attack was actually perfectionism. And that started in childhood and was born through my upbringing and my early career as a musician, often playing with musicians much older than I was, needing to be perfect, needing to achieve, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a combination
I'm personally in recovery as well as a recovering perfectionist, so I understand.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you use the word recovery, because straight after the heart attack, I went to see the psychologist and we got into perfectionism. And I read Brené Brown's The Gifts of Imperfection, which is an amazing book, started me on my journey.
Yeah.
But the deeper I went, the more I realized that actually I was having a fairly visceral response. Even though I knew that I needed to address my perfectionism, I was having a response against addressing it because I valued it. And I think most perfectionists do, right? And
because we call it high standards, or right, we call it something else to make it okay. And I say we because I'm right there.
Right, absolutely. And I think we have to qualify it, we have to quantify it, and we do that through what you've just said. I think I really rail against the term recovering perfectionist because I think it's something that we can dissect. I think recovering it's a label that we use to get out of the all or nothing. It leads us to the nothing rather than the all. But I do believe that there's a hybrid where we can actually get into the root of our perfectionism, find out what works for us, find out what doesn't work for us, do the work for the stuff that doesn't work, and keep the stuff that does.
Sure. I mean, I see recovery also, of course, it's because I'm trying to be funny, but I do see it as a work in progress.
Yes,
otherwise
absolutely.
We're expecting perfection from our change or transformation from perfection, right?
Right. Yes.
And that's not going to work either. So like you said, it's not an all or nothing thing. We have to recognize the progress as we're making it.
Yes. Yeah. Completely. That actually kind of touches on probably my biggest journey since the heart attack was the realization that I'd been so focused on the result all of my life. And so unfocused on the journey to the result that I allowed the attack to happen. And when I say that I allowed the attack to happen, it was born out of low self-esteem. So therefore I didn't look after myself, crappy diets, no exercise, missed night's sleep, et cetera, et cetera. And so much more focus on the journey to the result was probably first on the to-do list of the methods that I needed to change, because my old methods no longer serve me.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because I just wrote that down. Like, I'm a very results-oriented person. And I believe that when we want to, and when I say result, I mean objective or whatever it is, to know where we're going and what it is that we want to do. Otherwise, how do you set priorities? But as you said, we also need to respect the journey. So I'm guessing you're going to talk about the equilibrium there, or the way to find that balance. Is there, like, there's an 80-20 rule, right? That talks about the 20% that makes 80%. Is there like a ratio about which part results, which part journey? Like, how do we find that balance to know that we constantly step back and say, where are we going? But to give us space along the way to experience and be present and part of the journey.
Yeah, well, presence and being part of that journey, being self-aware enough to know what's happening on the journey is key. In answer to the 80-20 element, I'm not a huge fan of putting numbers on stuff like this because everyone's different. Everyone's going to have a different method and reaction to what's going on. But I think I am still today results orientated. I have to achieve results. I have deadlines, same as everybody else. I still have the same high standards that I had before the heart attack. But I had to figure out during Hamilton how to maintain the standards of the biggest Broadway show on the planet in healthier ways. And what I learned kind of then transferred to my personal work and now my business, Perfect Equilibrium. And I think perfect equilibrium ostensibly is when we set the bar where we need to set the bar and want to set the bar. So we know exactly where we're going. We know exactly what we're going to achieve and when we need to achieve it by. But the perfect equilibrium element is being self-aware enough and being compassionate enough to ourselves on the journey to the result. So prior to the heart attack, I would regularly go to the piano, for example, and be learning Hamilton before I took the job on the road. And because there was so much music, because there was short time, I was just, well, do the work. And I would regularly wake up. I wouldn't shower. I wouldn't get a cup of coffee. I'd go straight to the piano and practice, and I'd still be there 5 hours later, having not looked after myself. These days, I would, in that situation, set an alarm every 55 minutes, which forces me to be present to the present moment every 55 minutes so that I can take 5 minutes for myself, whatever that means. It can mean glass of water. It can mean stretching. It can mean get outside for some air. It doesn't matter. Everyone's different. Everyone has different needs. But the point is that you are being true to your needs in the present moment, which allows you to achieve success in healthier ways and better results, because guess what? The following 55 minutes of much better quality, the output is much better quality because you've spent those 5 minutes. It's also allowing the self-compassion element. So I recognize, partly driven by the perfectionism, that my inner critic was horrible. And pretty much everything that I did was critiqued inwardly. So the energy that I was expelling through all of that stuff was completely harmful and not good for Julian Reeve, not good for Hamilton either. And so learning skills, and so this is where self-compassion comes in, learning to be as compassionate with ourselves as we are to others and transferring some of that language is a really important part as we achieve our success and as we go after our results. A lot of people think that that's lazy. A lot of people think that that's selfish. But actually, I think it's a superpower that allows us to achieve that success, even better success. And this is the final element of perfect equilibrium in terms of what we're talking about. Reevaluate exactly what the result is. I think so many people think about the result as the end product. Well, I need to build a website and I need to build a website within 2 weeks. How does the website look? Incredible. Did I do it on budget and within time frame? Yes. Awesome. Then the result is a success. That's a very linear approach to what success looks like. I now look at success much more broadly and consider my own journey within the website's journey, if we're continuing that analogy or example. And so success now for me is very much equated by my own journey getting to the product result rather than just looking at the result of the product itself.
Right. So the result of the product versus the product of the result. Because it's interesting, right? Because actually when you said focused on like the website as an example, the website actually isn't the goal. So we spend so much effort perfecting this website when actually it just needs to drive business, right? The goal is whatever the website will do for you.
Yeah, well, that's a really important subject. And I think one of the bigger things that I had to work through was, and this is true for, I think, all high achievers, is that the result or our work is our identity. We become our work. And that's why the result is so important. Right, to us. Before we do this work, we think that the website, in this instance, represents us. And if the website looks great, then therefore we are great.
Right.
So the separation of identity and self-worth, self-esteem, etc., to our work is so important, because when we do that, that's when we start to lean into everything that we're talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And so did you find that, like when you said you started to take care of yourself, to take breaks, and was that spun off at all because you recognized that you were actually, the quality of your work was going down, or you were making mistakes, or like, was any of that present as well as the physical, okay, my life depends on it?
Yes, in a couple of ways. So the perfectionism work actually transferred very nicely to Hamilton. I kind of dug pretty deep into the perfectionism world, and I discovered the type of perfectionist that I am. So officially, there are kind of three perfectionists that we could be: self-orientated.
Is this your work, the three perfectionists?
No. So this is the multidimensional perfectionism scale driven by psychologists Hewitt and Flett. They figured out that there are three dimensions. So self-orientated, which is where we demand perfection of ourselves, other-orientated, where we demand perfection of others, and socially prescribed perfectionism, where we think that everybody else needs us to be perfect. Whenever your internet stopped working in 2017 was when I took the test for perfectionism, basically blew up the internet, because the self-orientated scale it didn't exist for the information I gave it. It was just off the charts.
Gotcha.
As was socially prescribed perfectionism. And so I started to lean into the self-compassion to start to be kinder to myself, but I also started to release some of the standards, or some of the high standards that I thought everybody else demanded of me. Mm-hmm. So, for example, looking at Hamilton, you would think...
Well, it makes a lot of sense to jump in. I mean, you're representing a stage performance.
Absolutely.
And so that I can shake my head and say, well, that makes total sense.
And when you break it down to its bare bones, you can easily say, well, that's what I was paid to do. That's why I got the job, because I'm good at doing that. I'm good at maintaining the standards of Broadway around the country, around the world, and getting the company to be the best that they can be every night, or as close to perfection as I could get it.
Right.
And so the balance of the release of that, well, this is what Lin-Manuel Miranda needs from me, but what do I need for me in order to achieve that?
Yeah.
And that was a really interesting journey. And within that, I kind of touched on, I experienced flow, I think, for the first time as a music director, because I was finally released enough to be doing something difficult, but not difficult, challenging, but it was within my skill set. I finally learned to let go enough that actually I could operate a higher level. So to answer your question, yes, I absolutely found that the release created more. And that's a lot of the work that I now do with high achievers, is how we give ourselves permission to do less to achieve more.
Awesome. I would love to continue our conversation, and maybe we'll have to do a version 2. What didn't I ask you yet? Because we have about 5 minutes before we need to close. What didn't I ask you that you think is really important to bring across about the work that you're doing?
I think the hardest thing that I find is actually bringing people to the realization that they need to look at this stuff and consider this stuff before the pain point. So, the reason why I tell my story is, not for sympathy or for effect. Yes, it was a jump off point. Do I wish I didn't have the heart attack? Of course. Did my heart attack allow me to do the work that I was meant to do? Yes. But don't allow yourself to get to that point. So many people come to me after the pain point and go, help, and they wish that they'd addressed it. And the biggest kind of takeaway I can offer with that is self-awareness. It's like, well, where am I today? So 3 basic questions. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I sensing? Okay. If you ask yourself those questions often, every day, you will start to build very strong portfolio of feelings, thoughts, senses that gives you the information that you then need to take yourself forward. So, for example, if you're feeling stressed, what's the trigger? What's the stressor? Can you remove yourself from the situation? How else can you work your situation to better your environment to avoid the heart attack? And that's just one example. So I think that's the most important thing, and the biggest thing I try and inspire people to do is to get in front of this stuff before it really hurts.
Absolutely. I call them reset moments. So heart attack is a big reset moment. I'm talk about people paying attention, like you said, being awareness, those triggers, those things for me are the daily reset moments when we can be more present daily. So I just have a different language for it. I totally believe that awareness is the catalyst for growth. And I think I started out the show, so it'll be a good way to end the show, about how we close the gap between the knowing and the doing, and really having that self-awareness so that we can take those next steps towards what's most important for us is going to be key. Yeah. So, God, I have so many things to ask you that we didn't even get to talk about, because I want to hear about the whole Hamilton experience, but we'll have to have you back to talk a little bit more about.
Great. Look forward to it.
Whatnot. So where can people find out more information about you and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so the company website, perfectequilibrium.co. There's free ebook, 6 Steps to Perfect Equilibrium, which will get you and your organization slightly more focused in terms of how you can manage stress and burnout. There's going to be a really exciting AI platform coming out early next year that will help individuals manage their own stress and burnout themselves. That's called Pepper, the Perfect Equilibrium Personal Assistant.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that's been a really fun exercise, actually. It's been really great, and I'm really excited for what it's going to achieve. I think it's going to be a bit of a game changer. And yeah, for everything else, julianreeve.com. And yeah, I'm on all the usual socials. LinkedIn, I think, is julian.reeve.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed this, and I know that everybody else listening has as well.
Thanks for having me, Penny. I enjoyed that.
And thank you all for being here. I know you took away some thoughts there, and maybe it's just asking yourself those 3 questions every day, a couple times a day, stopping, setting a timer, and making yourself more present more often throughout the day, thinking, feeling, sensing, looking for those triggers. Lots of great stuff. Looking to help you guys find your perfect equilibrium so that you can work smarter. My name is Penny Zanker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes. Just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.